Chapter 43. Yasmeen. Yasmeen stood, wrapped in a thick blanket the woman, Lonnie, had given her. Of course, Yasmeen knew exactly who she was. She knew who all of them were. She'd been watching them for weeks, unknown to them. All of them but Chris. Now that was a surprise. She hadn't known he was here, hiding away from Malcolm in the decree. Everyone thought he was dead at the hands of Malik. Did Ben know? She wondered. He couldn't have. Could he? She didn't believe he could have. If she didn't see him, chances were that Ben hadn't either. If he didn't see Chris, alive and well as the head of the defense force of Hayden, he would soon enough. Ben may have felt comfortable not having to spy on Leah as much or as long, but he still did it regularly. It was only a matter of time before he paid attention to the military practices visibly happening all around the community. And when that happened, he was in for a big surprise. Chris Onweir, risen from the dead. Shocked the crap out of Yasmeen, that was for sure. She looked across the room where Chris stood next to the woman, Lonnie. His face was pale, like he was the one who had seen a ghost, and not her. Yasmeen breathed deep, her chest expanding, and took a large gulp from the steaming cup of hot tea Leah, of all people, had given her. She shook her head in disbelief, feeling like she'd walked into some kind of alternate universe. Yasmeen knew coming to Hayden was going to be met with some surprises, but this was nothing she could have thought of. Leah making hot tea to warm her, and the dead being alive? A little black and white dog came pattering up to Yasmeen's leg and put a paw on her foot. She looked down at it, confused, moving her foot away from it. It was some kind of lapdog, something her Mamani would own. Old people dog. It looked up at Yasmeen, its tail wagging and pink tongue hanging out, panting. She averted her eyes, not understanding what the dog wanted, and turned back to staring at Chris and Lonnie. Well, I'm guessing I'm not the only one surprised. She sipped once again from her tea. It tasted pretty damn good, if Yasmeen said so herself. She instantly felt herself warming up with the help of the tea and blanket. Comfortable enough and glad the journey to Hayden was over, but she still had to face the people in front of her, who stood staring at her with questioning faces. Yasmeen? Chris was the first to speak, his voice breaking as he said her name. Lonnie put a hand on his arm. You know her? Chris's eyes darted to a young girl standing with the man, Kai. She looked accusing to Chris, almost hurt, as Chris's face reddened as he nodded. We, know of each other. He bent his head, looking ashamed.
What? How?
Kai now looked at Chris with the same accusations and questions written all over his face. Relax, we're not friends, Yasmeen interjected. Chris's head flew up. His look of relief briefly showed in his features, but quickly vanished as he turned to Kai and the young teen. Leah stood back, observing, chewing on her index finger. She paused, hearing Yasmeen speak, and moved as though she was going to step forward to say something, but didn't. The little dog went up on its hind legs and pressed its front paws onto Yasmeen's mud-encrusted pants. It had already dried in the warm community room they were in. She shook her leg a bit, trying to get the dog to leave her alone. Maggie Mugs, get down! The teen ran over and quickly scooped up the canine, cuddling her in her arms, scolding her. Yasmeen swallowed, relieved. It was hard to concentrate on acting like she wasn't nervous, surrounded by all these people who were victims of the decree, with a mangy mutt distracting her.
Exactly what are you to each other?
Kai asked, his arms crossing and his brows furrowed with suspicion. He glared at Chris before turning his attention back to her. I know her too. Leah broke the awkward silences coming from Chris. She stepped forward, pale, her fingers now twisting together in front of her.
You?
Kai's words were laced with disappointment as he looked at Leah. She nodded, her long blonde hair swaying like curtains on either side of her face, trying to hide from them all. She looked at Yasmeen, almost apologetic. She's Ben's mistress. The room was silent for a second before it erupted with voices.
Did you know this?
Kai asked Chris, his voice growing with anger. The teen holding the little dog beside him just stood there, stewing in her own fury. Yes. Chris's words were clear yet low. Lonnie wrapped her arm in his, as though he would fall if she didn't, and stood firm beside him, ready to defend him. Were they together? Yasmeen thought, as the room became inaudible as everyone spoke over each other. She just stood back, waiting. waiting for the clatter of accusations and confusion to calm down before, of course, it exploded again. Was, she said, needing this to be over and face the consequences so they could move on to the next part of the equation. The next step to turning everything around. Leah turned to her, understanding on her face. And Yasmeen tightened her mouth, hating that Leah knew full well why Yasmeen was here, knowing full well the lies that Ben had told her. There was one thing Leah didn't know, though. She wasn't privy to all the secrets Yasmeen had walked into Hayden with. Nope. But she would, soon enough. They all would. They all stopped to turn to Yasmeen. Comical, really, like a circus show. But she was the main act. The main clown to pop out of the tiny car. The one at the end who no one expected. They stood without speaking, waiting for her to respond. I am not with him anymore. There. She said it out loud. The words turned everything she did from the moment she stepped out on Ben to where she stood now, and what would happen after it, into reality. I have escaped the decree, and Ben. Leah didn't say a word. Yasmeen thought maybe Leah was glad about it, but the look on her face was one of understanding and empathy. She wanted to hate her for it. Yasmeen was the one who did Leah wrong. She did not want or deserve any sympathy. It made her angry. Angry that she'd been so stupid to believe Ben would choose her over Leah. That she would believe every filthy lie he had told her. She'd given up her entire life, quit her job, and followed Ben to a cult. A murderous cult. She lowered her head. It wasn't Leah's fault Yasmeen made so many mistakes. Walking into a situation that she knew was wrong. Following Ben right into Malcolm Gobbo's hands. The weight of fingers pressed against her shoulder, and her head snapped up. Leah stood before her, her head nodding up and down. Tears welled up in her eyes. I understand, she whispered, rubbing her shoulder. I do. Yasmeen didn't know what to do. She could feel her throat constricting in the desperate need to escape, but there was nowhere to go. And she was utterly drained, beaten down from the trek in the rain to Hayden, the destructive relationship with Ben, and to the horrific truth of Malcolm. There was nothing left inside of her anymore. She was empty. You are in danger. The words of truth came out, and all ears were on her, the center row of the circus. Pardon me? Leah pulled back, her comforting hand falling to her side. You are in danger. Leah turned around, her eyes looking at Kai, confused. You and your boy. Yasmeen continued. It was time to reveal why she had come here, seeking refuge, and more. Malcolm thinks you killed his brother, Malik. He's dead? Chris asked, his voice laced with shock. Yes, someone slit his throat months ago. Leah shook her head. You said this before. I don't understand. I don't even know who this man Malik is. He's a sick motherfucker who liked to rape young girls. Yasmeen paused, letting out a smirk of a laugh. Someone must have gotten the best of him because they found him with his throat slashed and his pants around his ankles and everything hanging out. There was a gasp from the teen girl. Her face paled as she held the little dog tighter to her. Malcolm thinks you had something to do with it. Yasmeen continued, ignoring the girl. He's ordered Ben to bring you in. And your son. Kai was beside Leah, his hand reaching to touch her, but he pulled it back, and just stood beside her as she looked at Yasmeen in utter surprise. Adam! I need to check on Adam. She glanced at Kai and turned to go, bending her head. Excuse me, she said, and left the room, the screen door banging behind her. Kai stood watching after Leah, looking as though he was wrestling to go after her. He'll look for me. If Malcolm knows I'm alive, they'll come for me, Chris said to Lonnie, holding her hands in his. She nodded as she raised his hands in hers and kissed them.
What the hell is going on here?
Kai looked around, confused, first to his sister, then back to Yasmeen.
What are you talking about, Chris? Why would Malcolm Gobbo be looking for you? And why on earth would he think you were dead?
Chris looked at Lonnie and bent and kissed her square on the lips, as though kissing her goodbye. She nodded, as though the two were communicating with each other without the need for words. He sighed and turned to Kai. Because I worked for him. Malcolm Gobo will look for me because I was working for him and... He looked back one more time at Lonnie, who held her fist to her mouth, her eyes welling up with tears. And once my job was done, he ordered his brother, Malik, to kill me.
What the fuck, Chris?
It was the girl again, shaken, staring at Chris as though he had punched her in the face. Yasmeen felt overwhelmed. This wasn't part of the plan. Chris was supposed to be dead, yet here he was, standing there, revealing he had somehow gotten away from Malik and found his way here to Hayden, hiding his past from everyone. Well, not everyone, Yasmeen observed. Lonnie knew the truth. It was plain to see. She knew the truth about Chris.
Worked for him?
Kai asked, with such shock and disbelief. Yes. Chris's voice sounded relieved, as if he had removed a long-held burden he had been carrying, even though it might have been keeping him afloat.
Doing what, Chris? What were you doing for Malcolm Gobo?
I worked at the Lex District Energy Corporation.
Silence. Chris's throat constricted like he was trying to dislodge something thick and furry stuck in his throat.
The power plant. You worked.
Dawning realization spread across Kai's face as he realized who was behind the power going out. The girl beside him looked around, lost, like her entire world was systematically being destroyed in front of her. She turned to Yasmeen, her eyes blazing.
You need to leave! You need to get the hell out of here!
She looked ferocious and terrified all at the same time, unable to digest everything she'd just witnessed. I can't.
The hell you can't!
The girl let loose, beginning to shake. Yasmeen noticed for the first time that, hidden under the oversized hoodie, the girl was pregnant. Like her. I can't leave. I need her help. She raised her hand and pointed at Lonnie, her arms wrapped around Chris's waist, her head resting on his chest like it was the end of days. Which, in a way, it was. Lonnie lifted her head from Chris, confused, and looked up at him, looking for answers. Chris shrugged his shoulders, unaware of what Yasmeen was talking about. Yasmeen opened the front of her coat, the blanket she was wearing falling to the floor, as she smoothed her wet shirt, revealing her pregnancy. It's Malcolm Gobo's,